Good afternoon, Facebook family and Team 505th. Thank you for joining in for another virtual coffee with Chief. I am honored and humbled to welcome to the stage today one of the fellow commanders, Colonel Marcus Spike Wilson, Commander, 505th Training Squadron. Welcome to the show, sir. Such an honor to have you on, especially commemorating this historic month, like History Month. Again, sharing the stage with somebody that looks just like me, and seeing the path that we've walked together, getting to the positions and the places that we are, with still so much work to be done. But again, I walk on them footsteps, knowing that I'm trying to set the example for my fellow airmen around me and all airmen going to the higher levels and stuff. So welcome to the stage, sir.
Chief, I appreciate it. We were just saying before we went live, the wonderful saying in the black church, won't he do it?
Yes, he will.
Yes, he will. And so this is an honor, I have to say, to sit here with you also. And you said someone that looks like you. I have better hair.
Yes.
So, but it is a privilege to sit here with you as my command chief. And yes, Black History Month makes it a little sweeter, and with the backdrop of the airmen, I appreciate the picture. And no team out there, it's not cold in here. Chief and our team thought that in remembering and honoring Tuskegee Airmen, yes, I don't have the fur, but the jacket, it brings it on home.
I love it.
So I appreciate it.
I love it. Yeah, the lights might be a little warm, so if you start sweating, I just slide you a towel or something. It'll be all right.
We're good to go.
So, sir, hey, to start this off, I like to touch base. So, again, as I was making my way around as command chief to all the commanders and kind of getting to know who they are a little bit, and I think it might have been when you came into the office and you saw this picture, you being a proud graduate of Tuskegee University, predominantly historically black college in Tuskegee, Alabama. I thought it was there just sent chills up my spine because, again, I know the challenges that surround Tuskegee and also the Tuskegee Airmen and, the college itself, all the accolades and awards that they set, the precedents that they set, being such a prominent school. I was like, I got to get them on the show, just so we can talk about that, because, again, that is something that, you say, hey, I'm a graduate of Tuskegee University, that's a proud heritage that me not even being a graduate, but I was like, hey, I can relate to that, because, again, it goes without saying how proud, not only your family might be, but again, as yourself, as a Tuskegee grad. Would you like to talk on that a little bit?
Oh, it's almost another show.
Yeah.
But, yeah, absolutely. I look at that photo, I have to say, proud. That's the bottom line. Definitely stand on the shoulders of greatness, right? These are great airmen. They were great Americans. They got after it at a rough period across from a war cloud to World War II, from the challenges there in Macon County, Chehaw, Tuskegee area of Jim Crow segregation. Not always being allocated the best equipment, right? But you know what? They made it work.
Yeah.
And we talk about them to this day. So the resourcefulness, the ingenuity, right? Knowing that all eyes are on you, knowing that when, you step in an area, if you're gonna stand out, then you might as well stand up for having it in a sock, right? So when I look at this, and I think about what my parents taught me, I think about my football coaches there also, and our offensive coordinator would tell us about the 6 Ps. Proper preparation prevents, and I'll use poor performance. It makes you stand up taller. It makes you look yourself in the mirror and say, look, this is more than about you.
Absolutely.
So absolutely, as a proud graduate of Tuskegee University, commissioned out of Detachment 015, and as a Tuskegee member, I have to say TU. Someone out there just said,
Yeah.
It is saying a lot. And so I appreciate you acknowledging, Chief. But it's definitely an experience that tells you it was about work.
Absolutely.
Lifting the veil of ignorance. If you were to go there and see the famed statue there in our circle there, Tuskegee entrance with Booker T. Washington. That's as our first president there, founded in July 4th, 1881.
Correct.
And so I'll leave the rest for the audience to go look up. They'll find themselves on a path to a path to a path.
Yes.
On looking that up. But definitely a lot of history. The detachment is actually held there at my time there. I'm the class of 2000. We had Tiger Battalion, the Army ROTC battalion right around the corner, and we were housed in the General Chaffee James.
Yes.
Gym there, where also a museum is held. I was commissioned there in the museum, where we have a static display of this Phantom Vietnam print. So it's one of those that you almost can take for granted, but thank God for this amazing occurrence called homecoming.
Yes.
To go back and you realize how fortunate you were to be able to walk what we call the Ave, one of the main paths there on the campus.
Yeah.
And the amazing connectedness, the networking, the friends that you build. As you know, I had opportunity to meet some wonderful men there, and we learned the importance of friendship, and friendship definitely is essential to the soul there, where I had an opportunity to be introduced to the men of Omega Psi Phi fraternity.
Yes, sir.
And learning and discussing the principles of manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. And the entire student body is like one team, one organization.
Right.
And so there's an instant connectedness when someone knows that you have gone there. I can meet someone, I can talk to someone, whether they were plus or minus 20 years, right?
Right.
Being 20 years out. And they know. Regardless of the era, they go, yeah, I know what you've been through.
Absolutely. You gotta share that common bond. Like say, we walked in each other's shoes during that period of time, going through schools.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm pausing because there's just so much you can go to when you start talking about that institution.
Absolutely.
So that's where I met my bride, who's a fellow graduate and a veteran also. And so she's a graduate occupational therapist program there, therapy program there. And we've taken, our daughter there to see her here. So it takes a lot of pride there. Now, my siblings, all of my siblings, my family, we are graduates of HBCUs, Historical Black College University. My father, who is a retired Air Force member, also is a graduate of Alabama A&M University. My sister is a graduate of Alabama A&M University.
Beautiful.
And then my baby sister is a South Carolina State graduate.
Yeah.
And, my mother went on, she's working through her PhD from a master's in medical, University of South Carolina, Angelo State, and some of her other programs she's working on. So, scholarship, is something that was hammered very young. My dad would talk about education is the key. And so Tuskegee is where I actually had opportunity to experience that.
I like that. So a legacy of graduates within the family and graduates of historically black colleges. Beautiful thing. And again, just being a graduate period, this is something that I definitely try to set the foundation for my kids to follow.
Yes.
To show that, hey, your education will take you far. And again, once you get it, it's yours. Ain't nobody gonna take that from you. So again, I encourage that to anyone out there. It's like, hey, go get your schooling done. Especially, being in the military, it's like, hey, they're paying for it. Go after it and get it. Don't wait. Because again, it's something that, again, once you step outside the military, you have something to stand on. It's like, hey, I've got my degree, my training and certifications and stuff will help me a little bit better in life. But again, like your story, just having that legacy of family kind of show you that way, that path is a beautiful thing. And also like to say, sir, so anybody that's tuning in, you can always post a comment in the chat. That way we kind of answer it on the fly as we go through.
I'm going to jump in here for a second, move the audio a little quicker. Facebook's giving us some little audio, so see if I can move it in a little closer and get you a little better. Sorry about that interruption. Hello, everybody.
Audio, video, expert back there, take care of business as always.
Oh, we really are live.
Yes, sir, we are live. Okay, sir, to go off of that, so talking about Tuskegee, what drove you to want to go to Tuskegee University?
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. So I originally, after coming out of high school, coming out of graduating near Scott Air Force Base, there in Mascouda High School, class of '94. Shout out to the team out there. Just a few years ago.
Youngin.
So I was originally recruited and went out to the United States Air Force Academy prep school.
Right.
The quarterback out there and graduated from the prep school. But fate would have it, I did not go into the academy. Went back to a university called Lindenwood College that wanted me originally to play in academics. Spent that time there for a year, but there was just a bigger calling, and excellence. And I actually had a really good friend, her sibling said, "Marcus, look, you should just come home."
Yeah.
Right? And so I went on my recruiting trip to the with my football coaches there that spring.
Right.
Was blessed to earn academic, as a coach would say, monies.
Right.
Right. ROTC said, "Hey, you come down here, I'll make you a 200, aerospace science 200. We'll get you in field training." You know, and I thought to myself, if I'm gonna go somewhere of excellence, let's go back home and go to Tuskegee.
Yes.
And so, and my parents wouldn't be able to drive at the time. Mom and dad, and my sister, they were all stationed in Charleston Air Force Base. My dad, they weren't able to see me on television.
Right.
From other areas, then they can drive down and see me.
Right.
And so I went home, and I say home because we are originally from our family base. The preponderance of Team Wilson is there in Bessemer, Birmingham, Alabama. Bessemer, Alabama, though. And I knew of Tuskegee, and the HBCU was there, and it was just natural. So I hit the campus in the fall of 1996, and the rest is history. And it was about excellence. Like if I'm not going to play Notre Dame, right, on NBC, right, but I do know I want to be a commissioned officer. What better place of excellence than Tuskegee University? Right. And so went there for, like I said, and the rest is history.
All right, I love it. I love it. So with that, being a graduate from there and being tied to such a legacy of excellence, and such a legacy, Tuskegee Airmen, what's that feel like for you? And I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, just going there. But what does that feel like on a day-to-day basis? Especially, I can only imagine when you go back, say homecoming, or just going back and standing outside, your university and understand the greatness of what this means. What does that feel like for you? I know for me, I was about to kind of say something, but it makes me, it just wells me up with pride just to understand that, hey, this was the legacy that's laid the foundation for me to get to where I'm at now. So what does that feel like for you? Just understanding that, hey, I'm so connected to Tuskegee and the Tuskegee Airmen.
Let me be clear on something. You're a young teenage member. Those days you're pushing. I really wanted to play Division I football, and specifically a quarterback.
Right.
1990s black man wanted to be a quarterback, and for those that don't know the history of the black quarterback, look it up. Right. So to be clear, the opportunity at my size at that time to get to Division I, the military academy was the best pathway.
Right.
But there was something else for me when it comes to what was best for the family, what was best for my development. I do believe, and there I was, finding myself at Tuskegee.
Right.
And every year, I am more appreciative. You hear discussions of without struggle, there is no progress.
Right.
If you believe, there's a member that says, consider it all joy to go through trials and tribulations. Right? And so when I think of Tuskegee, I think of something that built on what I had gone through 2 years prior, built on what my parents had taught me,
Right.
built on what you learn on the gridiron, Division II football, where everybody's coming after this private school with all this legacy.
Yeah.
What do they know about playing football?
Right.
And so when I think about that, I think about grit, but I have to go back to manhood, importance of scholarship, uplift, and perseverance, the cardinal principles that were reiterated across Omega Psi Phi fraternity, but really reiterated in my home.
Yeah.
I think about wanting to be better.
Right.
I Think about wanting to be better, wanting to do better.
Mm-hmm.
I was as you know, I was stationed in the National Capital Region at one point. So it's one of those where you say there's one time at band camp, right? And if you remember, Howard University and all those HBCUs are there in that National Capital Region.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of black professionals in that region, that discussion, is the only time that I remember the same energy and the excellence you feel like I felt when I was on, as we say, the yard
Right.
at Tuskegee. The network that drives you, that we keep each other in check.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you go into an office and say, Tuskegee, I served with a guy from Tuskegee, his name or her name was A, B, C, and D. And everything after that better be stellar, or else there's going to be a phone call, an email,
Right, yes.
to get after saying, what are you doing? You're not representing. Now, to some, that's an incredible amount of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
To some, that will say, well, are you talking about excellence, or are you talking about perfection? No, it's just saying that when you step off that yard, I know what you have gone through, right? And we all fall short of glory. We're not perfect, but you know better, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to step it up, right? That's what you in your younger days think.
Yes.
So you carry a little extra weight. You do walk with a swagger. There's
Right.
some charisma. When you step from a ROTC standpoint, and I know my fellow soldiers out there in Navy, and they've added other programs. When you have this history,
Mm-hmm.
and even more when you're blessed, I have to say, when you're blessed to fly,
Mm-hmm.
and wear the bag, it makes you add a little more. You either gonna step up or not.
Absolutely.
And so if you're gonna stand out when you walk in the room anyway,
Yeah.
you might as well stand out for excellence. You might as well stand out for getting after the person that delivers, right? And so, in your younger years, you may see it as some pressure, but that yard refines you.
Yeah.
Your peers, I have my wide receiver and my classmate, my roommate, other buddy was in the band and was our fullback, etc. We all stay on each other
Good.
about keeping it together, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, what are you doing for your family? We're girl dads also. Hey,
Oh,
we
yeah.
want to be examples to our daughters. Hey, we need to grow. And I'm going to sound a little bougie, but I am part of the Tuskegee group that we're a Peloton crowd.
Hey.
With the bike.
I gotta follow you.
Yeah.
I'm on there.
we're on the bike, and it's hey, come on, Ski, let's go. We got to get this together.
Yeah.
We got to have our mental, our spiritual, our physical, our social, that comprehensive airman fitness that the Air Force talks to.
Absolutely.
And I'll look at the camera at this one as we chat. That comprehensive airman fitness, that discussion is just, I call it good home training.
Yes, sir.
Having relationships,
Mm-hmm.
right? You hear folks talking about building a family and friends in the work environment,
Right.
but it's a competitive environment also,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I've been blessed to where I have an instant network through Tuskegee, right?
Right.
Those folks keep me sharp.
Yes.
And I'm blessed to be married to a graduate who says you know better, right?
Yeah.
Those folks keep me on it, right? From a mental aspect, those folks can remind you they remember you in your first vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you were passing the hat to make sure, yes, we were on a scholarship stipend, but everybody didn't have gas money.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Those folks reminded you of what it meant to come together when there was hard times, when we lost a teammate who passed from a
Right.
sickness, right?
Yeah.
Those folks remind you when we woke each other up to make sure we were at chapel, and no matter what time we got up, we somehow made it to the offering time at church in
Yes.
the city, right? No matter how late we got in that night, those folks remind you of, hey, right? And so, to keep it short, that's what Tuskegee University, Tuskegee experience, Macon County experience, the city wrapped their arms around you,
Right.
right? You needed to act respectful when you were out in the city, and when you did, you were called out.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I'm not going to build this Camelot.
Right. Yeah.
We were, as we say, don't get it twisted. We were college students.
Of course. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you were expected to get it done.
Yeah.
You were expected to play hard, work hard, and pray hard, right? And get it
Right.
done. As you can see, I can go on about this.
I love it. I love it. And so pretty much, it's like you explained it. It was a family. You know, and like I say, you have your group of mentors and friends that you develop over the years. And I'll talk about my mentorship a little bit later on, but you know, even being in the military, you build a nice circle of friends, like you said, that keep you honest, that keep you straight and check you. So I've been blessed to have my group that, you know, for the last 20 plus years, we've been real strong, real tight connected, and you know, we'll do a weekend Zoom call, and we'll all get on the phone, chit chat. See, kids are growing up now, our kids are having kids, and just to see that connection or have that sound guidance. You know, if I'm feeling some type of way, I know I have a group of people I can reach out to, and we can talk it through, and I feel a whole lot better. Like I'm not going through the journey by myself, you know. So having that connection, that's a blessing. Just be able to be connected to a group of people that you can rely on for that.
And it's good to have those folks. So we joke and call you CT, but I'm sure as we say your mama and them have another name.
Yeah, sure enough. Right? Yeah, they sure do.
So when those folks call you by those names, then you know, hey, look here.
Yeah.
You know, we knew you before you know, when you were Cadet Wilson. We knew
right.
Those folks, you know, the positive, not the members that remind you of your shortcomings and those items right there, because there are the negative Nates out there, but that connectedness, right, that you got that association.
Yeah,
right? There's some protection in it, and so, yeah, when I think about Tuskegee, I think of a family.
Yeah.
Some of the smartest people I've ever met.
Yes.
Who still remind me of, thank God I don't have to compete with them.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So looking back, how has being a Tuskegee grad influenced who you are today?
Mm. Well, it has made me be more appreciative of those moments, but not spending too much time looking back, right? But I start to think about right now, what does it make me think of? Appreciation, and that being in the now, not looking back, not too far forward.
Right.
The present really is a gift.
Right.
And when I find myself in a tough spot, reaching out to those members and thinking about what I learned from the lessons on the yard.
Right.
From a professional standpoint, so if you look at the environment of what we saw, the untimely death of Mr. Floyd.
Yes.
Right? You can argue, and regardless of what member thinks, you can argue that this was our Emmett Till event. Right? Please look it up, Emmett Till, what that means, team. If you look at the events of 6th January, regardless of what you think in that crowd, that mass of what they decided to do, right?
Yeah.
We're going to take the Capitol, right? I think about the airmen.
Right.
Think about Lieutenant Bullock from The Flute with the French. If you go back and look at the movie Fly Boys, you'll see one of the first black aviators. I think about General Davis. You know, I think about Lee Archer, whether or not he was an ace or not, but I think about those pilots, General Chappie James.
Yes.
And I'll hustle up and think about General Brown. I think about those members who are a great American story, right? But you talked about Tuskegee, right? I think about that. Look at what they came home to.
Right.
What they just got through winning. What they just got through doing.
Right.
And you can Google and hear Lee Archer and those pilots coming back, and when they were walking off, you know, from the ship, right? When they returned and saw these segregated lines of colored go this way and white go that way. And I think about the discussions and the challenges we're having now. What they did was not in vain. I need to get it together and step up and speak up.
Absolutely.
Which is why I'm sitting here with you today.
Absolutely.
So, you know, there was a time when I would have discreetly handled some of this discussion.
Right.
So you say, Jen Colonel Wilson, what does that mean, right? This is not the time while wearing the badge, right, to be quiet.
Absolutely.
And this is the time to ensure that we don't have the definition of insanity, which, you know, doing the same, providing the same input, thinking you're going to get a different output. It's time to speak up, speak out. maybe we should discuss inside our gates the things we weren't told to discuss. Maybe the political discussions are relevant. Maybe if you start to look at race and religion and those discussions, because they are sitting in our lap. This is not the time to put my cranium, put my head in the ground, in the sand, and say, no, 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 that's outside of my control. That's happening outside the gates. When folks come through the front gate, right, and they drive to their office, they put all that aside. There's no way that's affecting my area, right? That's an immature, and I'm just going to speak for me. I'm going to speak for me.
Oh, it's correct.
No, speak for me in this statement. It would be cowardly not to be bold and stand up. And when it's time to have those discussions, in light of the environment, knowing that there are members in my formation, knowing that there are members across our force hurting, when you ask me about them and the time on the yard, not everyone at Tuskegee goes through ROTC in the military, right? And so they will ask me, what do you think? I heard you have your first, there's a black man that's, to them, they're like, there's a black man in charge of the Air Force, right? Some will say that. They say, I'm like, absolutely. They're like, wow, what took so long, right? Right? We segregated, what date, right? And so it makes me have to take time to study, to make sure that my facts are better, so that I can bring our articulate discussion to the table as a commander, as a person with a deliberate seat at the table. Right? To affect and ensure there is an effective change is occurring.
Absolutely.
Right? And so what did those men and women do that we call the Tuskegee Airmen? They lay the groundwork. When I think of them, and you reference, well, of course, also sports background, etc. You heard me talking about being a quarterback. You hear discussions of the representation of black members in aviation, right? You start talking about a discussion about leadership. Do they have the mental capacity, right? You go back and study the challenges of the black quarterback, the challenges of being a pilot. Do they have the intelligence to fly, right? Do they have the intelligence to be leaders, right? You ask me when I think about Tuskegee, I think about, absolutely, I need to be an example. I need to be seen. I need to be heard, right? I need to be a great wingman standing on their shoulders.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, which causes me to pause, slow to speak, quick to listen, right? Slow to offend, and go get after it.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know you were going to ask me that question, so that just all came to me.
That's all right.
That's the things I think about. Is if you're going to stand out when you walk in anyway, you would pray you're standing out that you got your stuff in a sock. So, those are things I think about when I think of Tuskegee. I have civilian classmate peers who I know for a fact will say, well, what are you going to do, Colonel? Lieutenant Colonel? My friends will say that, right? Say, no, what you going to do about it? Right? What did you do? Are you expecting the system, right? What are you going to do about it? And so it makes me move out.
Absolutely. And it's valid. Like I say, a lot of great stuff. As we
recharge on that.
As we speak, to continue to move the ball forward. Because again, like I say, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and they lay the groundwork. At McKinn, we're not 100% perfect yet. We ain't there. I don't think we'll ever be perfect, but again, we'll continue to move the ball forward for additional quality and additional opportunities where it's just grade me on a merit my performance alone, not the color of my skin or the
content of your character
or the content of my character. Grade me on a merit my performance alone. And like I say, we've got the racial disparity right here. And again, as we dig into that piece, we're not going to go too far and say, as we dig into that piece and understand that, this is something that we've seen over the years. Because you've been in how long now?
Just a few days.
A few days?
Yeah, whatever. we'll call it 20.
20, all right.
And 21.
So 26 years and
You're 26 years?
26 years. Yes, sir. Or 20, yeah, I'm about 26 years in June.
I need whatever your skincare program or
Yeah,
whatever.
I got, hey, you know.
Can I get that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to keep looking youthful like you.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, and not to say I haven't gone through my own challenges and struggles,
Yeah.
but, you know, I was like, okay, you don't have to like me or anything like that, but you will not deny my performance. You will not deny what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
For the simple fact, if you don't want to recognize it, the folks that are around you that make the decisions, they will recognize it.
Yeah.
And they will continue to bless me with, you know, opportunities to excel.
And here you are.
Here I am. Here we are.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, say, we won't let, you know, different ideations or whatever, different thought patterns deter us from success. You know, you probably heard, I told you my 3 P's: patience, persistence, and perseverance make for an unbeatable combination for success.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 P's are my marching orders to kind of stay after, like say, let me get after it and stuff. And how I bring my fellow airmen along with me, you know, in that process. And that's all airmen, period, you know, and it just makes a difference when I see young black airmen, you know, they ask me, say, Chief, so I don't see a lot of, you know, black females in a maintenance career field or something like that. And I was like, hey, we're there. And I was like, let me get your information. I'm going to put you in contact with some folks that I would love you to talk to.
Yeah.
Someone that looks like you can talk to them, but like, and they understand the same struggle that you might have gone through. And again, you know, and I take knowledge from everyone, no matter, you know, race, creed, color. I take knowledge from everyone because there's something to learn from each person. And again, you know, that little quote that I got was from Joshua Johnson, JJ, a young staff sergeant, you know, white male. You know, he was like, but his energy and love for people is what was so wholesome and pure. And I was like, that's what good leadership is about. That's what good people are about. And so, you know, he blessed me with that little nugget of knowledge, and I've been using it for years. You know, as my mom should keep pushing forward, because again, you know, it rings truth for me. And so I always share it. You know, I was like, hopefully, you know, you figure out how that, you know, weaves into your life structure and your career or your personal life. Because again, if you sit back and think about it, deep enough, patience, persistence, and perseverance, unbeatable combination for success, it will ring true in some form or fashion in your life to kind of help you get over that little hurdle or struggle that you might be going through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we got a question.
Yep, we got a question. It's all right. Looking at today, speaking of the Tuskegee Airmen in their prime, and given the chance to repeat what they did, do the panel members believe that they would do so looking at the state of progress 70 years later? Or do you think that I can hear myself in the thing. Or do you think if they are not pleased with the level of progress in the military or nation, especially in the light of recently released reports, they would have chosen the route of, say, Eugene Bullard?
I think, sir, you want to lead off that?
So it sounds like the question is, do we think that the early black aviators would be satisfied with the current environment, and would they have decided to still join and fly?
I take the current path that they go through.
That's our interpretation of the question, yes.
Well, that's a different time and environment. You know, Mr. Bullock was, you know, World War I time frame, that's turn of the century, versus the airmen of World War II, civilian programs, versus he had to go to France. I mean, that's an interesting question. But I am confident that those members, if they were given the opportunity to fly, because that's what drove them to serve, I would imagine. Absolutely. And great patriotism and desire to fight. And so if I got a love of this amazing capability called airplanes, and I got some patriotism, thank God that there's a military someone there to let me do it. And then if you have a group of folks that know that, look, you're going to have some struggles, and there's going to be some members that it's going to be segregated. But I got an opportunity to go fly, fight, and take it to the enemy. Sure. Of course, I believe they would still fly and get after it. if that's the gist of the question, that's how I interpret it.
Yeah, if I understand that the same way, I
Yeah.
also think that they would definitely lean forward to take that challenge on.
Yeah.
Because again, as we were trying to move towards desegregation and everything else, again, we're gonna have to go through these struggles and challenges to get to where we wanna be. So again, like I say, those are founding fathers, you know, in that aviation realm for African-American aviators. So, of course, I think they would, you know, wholeheartedly accept that challenge and continue to press on and get after it. Because we know they were doing more than just for themselves. They know they were laying the groundwork for their children's children and grandchildren to follow through in their footsteps. So I believe that they'd be willing to take that challenge on.
But here's a great takeaway that I want to make sure everyone has. This is a great story regardless of race.
Mhm.
Those folks were warfighting heroes. So that's an aviation story. That is our Air Force history. There's our Army Air history. Now, I'm not marginalizing bridging. And here's why I say that. When we talk about racial disparity, when we talk about the challenges, whether it's when we talk about the challenges, this is not just two black dudes, two black airmen, and some black aviator challenges.
Right.
This is a we. This is a greater we
Absolutely.
to acknowledge. You don't have to agree. You could be indifferent. You could be agnostic, whatever. But this is just not Marcus Wilson, you know, and CT talking about some heroes because they were black. These are some great stories.
Absolutely.
You know, and members. These are just great stories of ingenuity.
Mhm.
Oh, by the way, the amazing obstacles that they went through being, they weren't called black then, right?
Yes, sir.
Having to fly and push through it.
Yeah.
And so these are great stories of perseverance. These are great stories.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Absolutely. All right. Any more?
Okay.
So what motivated you to join, sir?
Well, I'm blessed to be a brat.
Yeah.
I am. Yes, the first 10 years of my life, we lived in Alabama, and give me a moment, Chief. I do have to send a note out to those in Bessemer, Alabama.
Oh, please do. Yes, sir.
You know, my family and friends, the Wilsons, the Colemans, the Smiths out there in the Bessemer, Birmingham area, which is our home plate
Right.
for my side of the family, to my Houston family, to my family in Lagos, Nigeria, my in-laws, my Houston family, all, you know, Hartford, Connecticut. I have to say that because as a military member, I wasn't always inside the gates.
Right. Absolutely.
And so I just had to talk about Jefferson County, and then my dad's first assignment was Maxwell Air Force Base. Always sits in my heart. I learned to read at Maxwell Elementary, right?
All right. Yeah.
Miss Roper was my first grade teacher. So when I tell the military brat story, but there's a bigger community that wrapped their arms around teenage kids that have been together since the 8th grade.
Yes.
That had to raise me while they were getting it together, and
Right.
knuckleheads, and here they are, you know, Dr. and Ms. Wilson. So I have to give that notice, and to my sisters also, as they took the time to put up with me too. I'm the oldest, but you would think my two sisters are.
Of course. Yeah. That's
And
what.
so-
Yeah.
I just had to think about that when I started telling these stories and the
Yeah.
competition within our family of amongst the HBCUs to
Yeah.
do better, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my backdrop, and I was telling the team, if you really want to get into it, just go look at the church scene off of Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah. Yes.
I hear the jingle jangle of 1,000 souls, right? You
Yeah.
know, and so do you see the light,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the military. So you talk about this report, you talk about a young airman wanting to say, I don't really see folks that look like me
Right.
in maintenance. So I was blessed that my mom and dad made sure that they put me in front of folks
Mm-hmm.
that were getting after it. So I met, yes, they were an HBCU family, but I met other graduates. I met other black officers. I saw a black aviator or two,
Right.
not many.
Right.
My dad I would help him, so I'm not gonna act like I did all the work, but we would put together model airplanes. So I can remember the F-16, the A-10, the B-52 model,
Right.
the B-1 when we lived in that booming metropolis, San Angelo, Texas. when the B1 was coming out and from out, I remember putting together those models, right? And you would compete to get to the shop F or VX to get to that model. When it hit the store, you wanted to, that was your model. That's how you were like, I got it. F105, and the F4 Vietnam paint scheme is my favorite. It's my favorite fighter. It just looked like it could be damaged, right? And so when you're around that, when you see the Harrier jump jet in person, when you see the C5, when you see a B-52, when you have seen an F-16, right? When you see an A-10 land, you're like, wow. Right? And then, at one base, Sky Air Force Base, to ride your bike to get to the other side of the base, you had to go around the flight line.
Yeah.
So, 141s. Parents were at Charleston, right? When you meet mentors who are in the early days of the C-17, the Pluto 140, 141, you see it, like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And so, and I thought about, sports, and how can I combine the two? And so, and now here we are, a military officer. But I saw it. It was presented to me.
Yeah.
And I have to think back on the importance of seeing it. I'd rather see that sermon than hear one any day. You got to see it. You got to see it.
You gotta find connection to it early on in life. So,
you get to see it.
like say, being a military brat, I'm also a military brat. Fun fact about me, I was born in Fort Rucker, Alabama, right down there in Dothan. And it's the funny thing about the military. Yeah, you bounce around so much. I was just born. I don't really remember too much about it, but driving up through Dothan, going up to Columbus, Georgia. I was like, hey, I was born here. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Never, because I was a baby. But again, my dad was Army, but being around, just the military lifestyle and stuff, and that was something that I was very accustomed to, I was comfortable with. And I knew eventually, after a little stint in college and stuff, that, hey, the military was going to be on my plate of future things to do. And I've always been drawn to aviation. I always loved it, just being in that environment, like say, seeing C5s or C-17s or F-15s and A-10s and things up close.
Yeah.
But again, taking the opportunity to step back and say, man, look what I'm a part of. And look what some of my founding fathers laid the groundwork for me to be able to stay in here and managing command and airfield. Like, hey, this is yours. As I call it, hey, the airfield, that's my playground. My motto as an airfield manager is my airfield, my domain.
That's right.
So again, like I say, if I'm gonna walk the talk, I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna take care of business. But we're gonna take care of this flying operation, and it falls on my shoulders to make sure that they can get after it the way they do. So, it definitely makes you walk a little differently.
You say that, and then you go back to the question that we just answered about, if you go Google it or look at some presentations that you'll see back, civil rights era, etc.
Right.
There will be a note that says, I'll make it up right now, blah, 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 squared away, excellent, and a credit to his or her race.
Wow.
Just Google it.
Yeah.
You hear notes like that,
Right.
like a credit to your race. You're representing your people.
Right.
And whether it is said or not, right, you carry that.
Oh, yeah.
You carry it. We're not that far away. My grandmother that helped raise me recently passed, and would have been about 100 years old this month, and that wasn't that long ago.
No, sir.
Right? You have members discussing John Lewis and Good Trouble.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't that long ago that it was.
No, sir.
And I'm sure there is a listener out there that's Googling it right now, credit to your race. It was a comment that you would hear, right? Like there was a caveat.
Right.
So what, Spike? There was a time when members would tell you need to run 2 and 3 times faster, so that you could see that you are up to par, that can see that you're as good as your white peers, etc.
Right.
And So I think back to that question. Absolutely, but let me change it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just go get after it, right?
Absolutely.
Don't carry that weight anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good for your mental wellness. It's not good. It's weight, and you can go. If you look at the weathering principle,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in some lower socioeconomic environments, you look at the pressure that women will carry.
Right.
You go and look across some environments, some ethnicities, you start to look at the weight. That mother is a mother.
Mm-hmm.
She's the breadwinner. She may be caring for several generations.
Right, absolutely.
And you can look it up. It's a principle that discusses how you start to wear down by wearing all those hats.
Right, yeah.
And so it's a sample, but I take that and I start to think about the pressure you put on yourself. Been there, maybe none of you do that.
Yes.
Where
Yes.
you go into a room based on the history of what we're chatting about. And I say that because some will say, well, don't all minorities, non-white males feel that? And I will say, you know, look at the report. There's some that will say, well, that report may be applicable to all.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the history, you start to say, well, let's organize it in, is there a discrimination disparity? There's a difference in discussing those challenges from an immigration standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
women's suffrage, and the continued residue of discrimination, racial discrimination, those things unpacked and unsettled from the history of slavery, right, across a systemic, right? And so then you and I walk in the room, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you may carry, when you have that airfield, look, you already know, I stand out, I gotta have it together.
Absolutely.
Right? There may not be another one like me to make it in here if I don't. Who wants to carry all that?
Stress. A
So-
lot of weight carrying.
So this just came to me, by the way, bear with me. So I tell many members out there, that importance of a network, we're not talking about perfection, we're talking about excellence,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And the hell with them if they're gonna use your race, gender, et cetera, against you. Just go get it.
Absolutely.
And, because I will not pass that on to another generation.
Absolutely.
So, I give you that one for free.
I like it. I'm taking it too. I'm taking it. Okay. Let's see. So, moving on to my next question here, sir. Actually, this is my story. So, my last deployment, I deployed to the 332nd, undisclosed location, under the banner of Tuskegee Airmen.
Say that one more time. You deploy where? To the what?
Undisclosed location, 332nd,
Mm.
Air Expeditionary Wing.
You talking about the history of the 332nd Fighter Group?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Red tail.
Tuskegee Airmen, Red Tail, Spitfire.
Mm.
So just the
Mm.
feeling of walking in that shoes, and being there as a chief, you know, being there as a deployed chief, an African American, standing out like, you know, we stand on the shoulders of giants, you know, and it's just an amazing feeling just to be a part of that and be like, hey, I'm going to get after it.
Yeah.
You know, so when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, absolutely, let's do it. Let's do it, you know, and as I did more and more research on the history of it, I was like, it just felt so overwhelming because, you know, I made that trip down to Tuskegee to go to the Airfield Museum and everything like that. So just to see it and experience it, you know, as a senior NCO, like this was my foundation for me to be where I'm at right now.
Chief, did it make you want to stand a little taller, do better?
Oh yes, sir. Yeah, each and every day.
Yeah.
You know, because again, you know, it's like say that was my foundation, and now how do I carry that forward?
Yeah.
You know, how do I set that example for
Yeah.
for the airmen around me
Yeah.
to carry that forward?
Yeah.
Because again, you know, you don't have to be a product of your environment. You know, you don't have to let any, you know, misfortunes or whatever that you've been through define who you are and where you're going in life. Don't be stuck in your past to hold you back, but if you use that knowledge or your past kind of carry you forward. Like, hey, I can always get to a better place. I can do more. I can do better.
Yeah.
And like I said, you walk a little stronger, a little taller, and every day out there, for my whole deployment, you know, I walked a little bit taller, a little bit prouder, just to be part of that, you know, and it felt like a culmination of my whole career, you know, Yeah, I'm a red tail. You know, I was like, I am a Tuskegee Airman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm proud about that. And I carry that badge of honor there, sir.
You know,
Any other questions on here?
No, sir.
Okay. Sir, you got any?
you know, your comments and the things I just impromptu stated there, you and I are not discounting that there is whether it's a caste discussion, a race discussion, racism, there's a disparity out there, right? My mother used to sing a song that talked about through it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have learned to trust, right?
Yes, sir.
So you learn, like you said, you get up, you look yourself in the face, right? Square your shoulders.
Yes, sir.
And then you think about the backdrop, so you get it. Like the 99th, the 100th, the 301st, the 302nd, the 332nd Fighter Group. Now look, you trying to tell me that with all this technology, right, I'm deployed in this location, but I bet you at any time I can FaceTime with my wife, right? I'm deployed in this location, but I bet you I got great Wi-Fi, squared away meals, right? Not discounting the deployed environment, but when you think about this team of warfighters,
Yes, sir.
you think of our current concepts of building agile combat employment, agile airmen, etc. We had a training venue there in my building there, and I told the team, look, we know airmen that have done this before.
Yes, sir.
You know, we have a generation of airmen, right, and Army Air Corps folk who have done this before. We have been in austere environments and dealing with a threat external, and for them external and internal, and we still got it done.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which is why we started this off saying, won't he do it?
Won't he do
Right?
it?
And
Yes,
so,
he will.
without struggle, there is no progress. And I will consider it all joy to go through those trials and tribulations. And so, when you think about this backdrop, it comes full circle what you asked, what the team asked out there. It makes you say, now wait a minute. They went through this in that environment. What is your excuse?
Say it again. What is your excuse? Just get it done.
Right?
Just get it done. Sorry, sir. So I'm getting ready to wrap it up. If you don't have any more questions, but sir, you know, I again want to thank you for joining me on this month's coffee. It has been truly a humbling and honored experience to share a table with you. Like I say, it makes me stand up a little bit taller. You know, again, just being able to share space and get this knowledge between us two. So with that, you know, like I said, I'm a Tuskegee Airman.
Yeah.
And I was deployed chief
Come on
down
in.
there. So this is very near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't go out to anybody, but you're a red tail, you're
I
a Tuskegee Airman.
put it
So
there for our COVID consideration.
that I like give them, you know, the Tuskegee Airman Chiefs coin.
Wow.
For excellence. Because again, that's something that you exude on a day-to-day basis, and I love just being in that environment with you, sir.
Wow. That's all right, Chief.
Yeah,
That's
hey.
a red tail coin.
Yes, sir, it is. You don't just get them every day. Yes, sir. You gotta earn
All
them.
right.
Yeah, you've done that and then some.